everybody. I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice.
Welcome to Crime of the Arts, a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
So this week, my story is about the Hollywood Ripper.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the Hollywood Ripper?
No, but it sounds terrifying. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds terrifying.
The Hollywood Ripper.
Yeah.
Cousin to Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
And today, this week, I'm covering Tony Sirico. You might not know that name.
Not a clue. No clue at all.
The world knows him as Paulie Walnuts from Sopranos.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. we're gonna talk a little about his past. It's not crazy his story
past. Well, I mean, for all of you on the Patreon, Justin's mic is playing Ghost today, so we're just gonna name it Casper.
Yeah. Whoever sees it today, yeah, you're in for a treat. It's just disappearing.
I mean, as of today, it's just Aunt Carrie. So.
Yeah, I told y'all my ghost story, and now this is happening. So sorry.
Granny Ghost is coming out in the mic. I'll go first because it's a even number. 26 episodes. 26 episodes. I'm very happy with what we've put out so far. So kudos to you, friend.
Kudos to you. It's been a good journey, and it's only going further.
Yeah, me.
Our podcast is hitting its late 20s. We're in our late 30s in real life.
Did you need to remind me? Was that like you felt really compelled?
I felt compelled. I mean, I'm older than you, so it hit me hard.
By a year is not all that much. Okay, so my story about the Hollywood Ripper is a story of 4 young women, 3 of which who were taken from this life too soon. 1 which was left to tell the story of the murderer who would soon be called the Hollywood Ripper.
Oh.
And I'm going to jump right into it.
Okay.
So in the early morning hours of August 1993, in a suburb of Chicago, the body of an 18-year-old woman by the name of Tricia Paccio was discovered on the stoop of her home. Her father got up that morning like it was a normal day. He had a cup of coffee and he needed to run out to his truck to grab something. And then he said he saw her little tennis shoes first. And she was laying on the porch just outside the side door of their house. Story is hard. He tried to perform CPR while he yelled for his son to call 911. And I watched, I have a bunch of sources that'll be in the notes, but there is a 2-hour special that 48 Hours has done on this case.
Okay.
I don't know if you love 48 Hours the way I do, that like haunting.
I definitely checked it out. Oh my God. That was pretty good. You're like,
right?
Lisa's really getting into it with the cello, folks, right now.
So I actually put a link to the episode, one of the 2 episodes in the show notes if anybody wants to watch it. But they interview her family members, her father who had found her and the mother. He ended up having to call to the scene, but it was just like heart-wrenching. But the thing that's interesting about this story is they were interviewed by a 48 Hours reporter or journalist. And her name is Maureen Mayer. And she was actually like working on this Hollywood Ripper case like 10 years before anyone else was. Like she started with this family.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And it took her many, many years to kind of like gain their trust. And she interviewed them and she was like working alongside them with the police. Like it was a really interesting way for her to kind of be involved. So the interview's horrible to watch. It's very sad. This young girl is found by her father and she was found stabbed repeatedly in the breast, chest, and arm.
Oh my goodness.
So the police arrived at the scene and her father's name is Rick. He called his wife and had to tell her to come home that Tricia was hurt. And in the interview, he said, who would do this to her? She would never put herself in harm's way. She was the type of girl that you always knew where she was, what she was doing, and you never had to worry about her. You know, she was really reliable. If she said she was going to be home at a certain time, she was. You know, it's kind of like the ideal kid at 18. And then Officer Ray, you have a hard last name, Salovich, said he heard a lady screaming like pulled up in a car and heard her screaming, and he realized that it was Trisha's mother. And she started running towards the porch towards her daughter. And he's like, I basically just tackled her because I didn't want her to have this vision of her daughter as her last memory. It was just like, it's a really hard story to watch.
Right.
These people are really, really affected. Even the police, everyone, just because she was well known in the neighborhood and, it's a small town outside of Chicago. The police investigated this horrible murder, but eventually the case went cold. Like the police told them, like, some murders don't get solved, and this may be one of those murders, which don't tell the family that.
Yeah, maybe don't tell them that. Show a little compassion.
Give a little hope.
Lead them on for a little bit. Yeah. You're just like, nope, this is over.
Yeah.
We got nothing.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a cop-out.
Waka, waka.
So yeah, they had nothing. They had absolutely nothing. No real evidence. This is 93, so DNA is kind of like on the cusp of being something that you could really test for. But other than that, they had no leads whatsoever. Fast forward almost 8 years. And there's a similar murder, but it's in Hollywood, California. And this victim's name is Ashley Ellerin. And she was stabbed viciously in her home on the evening of February 21st, 2001. And authorities believe that the 22-year-old fashion student was getting ready for a planned first date with Ashton Kutcher. He was kind of like just starting in that 70s show, and his star was kind of starting to ascend. And she kind of ran in the same circles with him. So his involvement in this is kind of the loop into the arts for me.
Okay, because I was like, once you said Ashton Kutcher, I was like, what the I didn't see that connection coming.
Yeah, so she was a beautiful, vibrant, life of the party kind of girl. If you look at our album cover picture, I'm going to have photos of the 4 women who were involved in this story, and they're all gorgeous. So she was in this circle of actors and non-actors and, just attractive young people hanging out in Hollywood. So she had this date planned with Ashton Kutcher. And Kutcher told the police that he showed up at her house between 10:30 p.m. and 10:45 p.m. But nobody answered the door when he knocked, and the door was locked. So despite the fact that the lights were on, he assumed that she had gone out with friends. He said that he had made plans with her, but he was running late, and he had spoken to her at like 8:30, and he just kept pushing his time of arrival off. Which is like kind of what you would expect, I think, of a young Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he definitely seems like the type. He's just like, yeah, don't worry, I'll be there. I'll be there. As he's already probably talking to some other chick. Yeah.
Well, who knows? But he did say that one of the last times that he spoke to her was at 8:30, and she said she was just getting out of the shower. And police believe that it was like not long, like almost right after that phone call ended, that she was attacked. So the evidence showed that Ellerin was attacked from behind, and the killer stabbed her 47 times.
47.
47.
Holy shit.
Before he fled.
My goodness.
And the extent of these injuries, 47 stab wounds is very rageful. It's very personal.
That's the first thing I thought. Yeah.
The amount of force that it takes to stab someone, I think, oh boy, I hit my mic. Sorry, everyone. I think is lost sometimes in numbers, right? So when you hear 47, but like the amount of energy it takes to do that always astounds me when you hear something like this.
They were definitely just caught up in the moment. Like you said, it's just very personal. It's filled with rage because, you're just going at it.
Yeah, well, stabbing is a personal murder anyway. It's very close. It's not like a gun where you have this sort of disconnect. You are hand to hand with that person.
Right.
So Kutcher said that he arrived at her house, and when she didn't answer the door, he assumed that she just bailed on him because he had shown up so late. And he said that before he left, he took a peek in the front window of the house, and he saw that the lights were on, and he thought what was red wine was spilled on the carpet. But that stain didn't really alarm him at the time. If you don't know anything's happened, He knew she had a house party the night before, so he just kind of assumed that it was like a wine stain or something. But those stains were later determined to be blood. It was her blood, not wine, that he saw. So the following morning, Ashley Ellerin's roommate, Jennifer DeSisto, came home, and upon entering the house, she saw Ashley laying on these, like, they had a 2-step level up into one of the other rooms, and she was laying on those 2 stairs covered in blood. So, like I said, Ashley was considered the life of the party. She had a lot of friends from different walks of life, friends from school. She had roommates, celebrity type friends. But Ashton Kutcher wasn't the only man police were interested in talking to. A man named Mark Durbin. He was a not so famous actor. They showed you his headshot from the 90s.
Okay, he was one of those aspiring actors.
Yeah, 90s, late 90s, early 2000s headshots were like black and white and sort of in profile and terrible. He was moonlighting as her property manager. That was his actual job.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That was his survival job over there. Okay.
Yeah. So Durbin and Ashley Ellerin actually had a secret relationship that no one really knew about. He and Ashley had been intimate earlier the same evening that she was supposed to be going out. But like Kutcher, which is like, damn, hello. But like Kutcher, he had fully cooperated with investigators, and both men were ruled out as possible suspects. Ashton Kutcher actually wasn't even informed of her death until the following day when they brought him in for an interview.
Damn.
Yeah.
So like an interviewer ended up telling him, you're saying the police. Okay, I just made sure.
Cops. And when he was talking to the police, he was admittedly freaked out because he knew his fingerprints were all over the doorknob. He tried to share as much information as he could remember. There were no signs of a break-in. And that led the authorities to believe that she most likely knew her killer, but they didn't suspect Ashton to be a suspect.
Right.
He was not suspected in having any part of this. The only evidence that they really had about this killer was that he was left-handed, based on the way the stab wounds were.
You gotta love forensics. You gotta love forensics on that.
Forensic science is so amazing.
Seriously.
I actually looked into going to school to be a forensic scientist. Well, now that you know me, you know that that's not something I could do.
I was going to say, once upon a time, I looked at what the prerequisites could be, and I was holy shit. I was like, this is a lot. I mean, math, biochemistry, all of it. I was like, well, this is out of my wheelhouse, but
you're like, sounds
it's
cool.
Good to know.
Cool. Smart people. Have fun. So yeah, that's all the evidence they had. Again, it's 2001. I mean, the DNA existed, but not in the way that it does today at all.
Yeah.
And they had nothing. Nothing. And this case also went cold. Just sat in the rolls. No one knew anything. Okay, December 1st, 2005. 4 years later, 32-year-old mother of 4, Maria Bruno, was fatally stabbed in her home just 10 days after she moved in to a gated apartment complex in El Monte, California. Her story specifically rings off all of my insecurities of when I used to live alone, because we talked about that movie Frozen, and it was like all those ways that you would say, hey, I'll do this, and then you're going to die. All of the things I was afraid of are all the ways that things happened to her. So...
Oh my gosh.
Let's just, unhash all of my fears.
Let's just open that box and just throw it all in there. Yeah.
We're opening the box and letting it all out, which is terrifying. Okay, so she lived in a gated apartment complex, which makes you feel safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her killer put on surgical booties, like boot covers. You ever go to look at a new apartment or a new house, they put those booties on, or you think of a surgeon putting them on for cleanliness. So he had those booties on, and he pried a screen loose from the ground floor kitchen window, and he went in and slashed her throat and neck as she slept.
What
the fuck?
Yeah, okay. So he knew the right window to pry open.
Right.
He went in there quietly enough, opened the door enough.
Never woke her up.
I mean, clearly he had to know that building very well, because you can't just, in this day and age, even if you were to don't do crime, folks, but even if you were to pry a window open and get in the building, every fucking apartment complex has a different every door is built differently. Like if I go to my apartment complex, I know the door's weight. I'm used to how to close it without slamming it or making a noise. If I go into Lisa, if Lisa was in an apartment right now, I don't necessarily know her type of structure, that door. So again, he must have fucking knew.
It's interesting you say that. Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that. So, I mean, this is like fucking nightmare. All of my nightmares. The next story I'm going to tell you too, the next woman's story is also like compounds upon this. He fled the scene, but as he fled, he accidentally left one of those surgical booties outside of the house. And there was a drop of her blood on it. And that was it. They had some neighbors come forward and say that they saw a man wearing a baseball cap and a hoodie who had been watching her from outside the apartment. They also saw a man had even tried to open her door days before the attack. Days before he had tried to open her front door.
Okay, so they saw these two incidents, and did they ever fucking, I don't know, call the cops?
I don't know.
Property management?
I don't know, but if the guy, if he was only there for a second and he's gone, like, what are you going to do?
I mean, I'm still going to call the cops if you're saying, oh, we saw her.
Even if the cops came, Justin.
True.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. That's still weird as fuck.
Crazy.
It's like we saw this guy watching her the other day for a mere 10 seconds. And
you know what? Like, a lot of the time in complexes, at least in my experience, it's like you don't fucking know anybody really in there.
True.
You know, like the person above you who you hate and the person next to you who you share a doorway with. And you're like, all right, we're cool. I hate that guy. You too. Great. And that's it. You don't know anybody else in any of the other buildings, really.
That's true.
Like it's that whole bystander complex. Like, it's not my problem to worry about, or someone else will handle it, or someone else will call the cops.
I'm just here to record it because you know how they get about that. Don't get me
started with the way the world is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because if you look at those two instances, it's like he cannot control himself. It is a compulsion to watch her. It is a compulsion to try to get to her and plot. And it's like everything one of those, what is it, Criminal Minds shows, like they show you all these stories. And I mean, some of those stories are based in reality, unfortunately, but his actions, yeah, it's just super scary.
It's he was all planning super scary.
And watching and like plotting, I guess.
Plotting to get in there and do what he needed to. Again, and it goes back to you had those rightful fears and it's shit like that.
Dude, when I lived alone in St. Louis, it was just me and my dog. I could tell you, okay, I had a baseball bat. I had a can of 10-foot Hornet spray, would shoot 10 feet. I had mace. I had personal alarms. I was like walking my dog with mace. I remember I walked down this little river walk that was by my house, and it was pretty empty a lot of the time. And there was a boat ramp there to this little canal, and Oscar and I walked down, and I remember the first time being there and being like, this sounds like the beginning of a Dateline episode. The girl who has everything for her moves halfway across the country to seek an opportunity, and she just goes missing and vanishes. And I was like, get the fuck out of here, Oscar.
That's too funny. Listen, safety is everything. And my girl's paranoid on that too. Well, rightfully so.
We are ought to be.
If I'm not here, she's got a knife in her little dresser.
Yeah. Why are you giving away her secrets? What are you doing?
Oh shit. Yeah, we'll redact all of that. We'll edit all of that. I'm just saying if you could just put some beeps in there and then people will be like, why are you giving away all the secrets? And they'll know that it was blah, 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 blah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. There's a machete hidden in my bedroom somewhere. The world is scary and people are unpredictable.
It's true, yeah.
And once I get through the rest of this story, you're going to be like, holy fuck. I'm going to give you a trigger warning right now because there's some details coming that are gruesome, I guess, for lack of a better term. Maria was actually separated from her husband, but they were still legally married. And his name was Irving Bruno. And he was actually the one who found her the next day. And he told the 911 operator that her breasts had been slashed off and one of her nipples was placed inside of her mouth.
What the fuck?
Yo, I told you, trigger warning. This is like some really serious Criminal Minds shit, right? Like really calculated, fucked up lunacy.
In our first death, there was none of that with her. She was just stabbed 47 times.
Okay, so let's recap for a second.
Yes.
We have Trisha, who was stabbed in 3 areas of her body.
Right.
And you have Ashley, who was stabbed 47 times, which is like, she's only this big. That's an escalation. And now you have like a body mutilation beyond that in this 3rd murder. And he's just off the rails. And if you look at time frame, the time frame's getting shorter. So you went 8 years and 4 years. Now we're going to go another 4 years. And we're going to fast forward to April 28th of 2008.
Okay.
And another attack stunned the city of Santa Monica. So 26-year-old Michelle Murphy woke up to a man stabbing her in the arms and in the chest as she was sleeping inside of her 2nd floor apartment.
Her arms and her chest. She
2nd floor apartment.
Yeah.
See, you feel this is where I'm telling you I'm like all fucked up. This is when you're like gated community, 2nd floor, you know, the amount of energy it would take someone to get in there. You just like, I would feel safer thinking like, oh, I'm on a 2nd floor.
Right.
But apparently this fucking guy is Spider-Man, and he climbed onto a railing and then onto a window ledge to her living room window where he sliced through the screen with a knife and climbed inside. So like, think about the determination of his actions to get in there.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, it was her. It had to be her. It couldn't be the chick in the apartment below her. It had to be her, you know? Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
Clearly, I'm guessing here, but I mean, I'm like, he knew all of these women. He knew those buildings.
So, Michelle Murphy was stabbed a total of 8 times before she was able to fucking kick off her attacker.
Oof.
She fought him off, Justin. She lived. She's the one who lived to tell the story.
She lived?
She lived.
What was he stabbing them with? Like, what type of knife? We still don't know, or we're going to get to that. She's going to tell us about this.
I don't know that I have the details on the weapons.
Okay.
We can look, though. The killer cut himself during the confrontation, and he started to flee the scene. And as he was running away, he's apologizing to her. Apologizing. I'm sorry. Fuck.
I'm sorry. Like, he's like spewing out his own blood.
That's what makes me feel like it's really a compulsion. It's something that is like, he doesn't feel like he has control over.
This person's literally fighting the
demons,
urge to purge a person. Like, he's over here.
To purge a person, you said. Oh my God. Yes.
That's how I feel.
Exactly
because
what it's
every
like.
few years, he's just like, I gotta let this out, and it's on.
Dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Today's story is so insane. So, this story is like something out of a terrifying movie, only it's not out of a movie and it's real fucking life. So all 4 women shared similar traits. They were all young and beautiful and outgoing and full of life and on the ups in their journey. And it's unfortunate, but they all shared one thing in common that led to their death or attempted murder. All 4 women lived near a man. Authorities later deemed him a serial killer because they were able to connect all 4 of these, 3 of these murders and 1 attempted murder to him. So Ashley Ellerin lived 1 block away from him. In the case of Maria Bruno, he could see into her apartment from his living room. So think about that. The guy who was trying to open the door, who was watching her, he fucking lived where he could see into her apartment. So, in the intervening years, the man would gain infamy and a chilling nickname, the Hollywood Ripper. And I don't agree with sensationalizing killers with cool names like the Night Stalker and the Zodiac Killer and the Unabomber. Like, there's got to be a better way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The Hollywood Ripper sounds way too cool to be allowed. This guy's not cool. He's a sick fucking murderer.
Yeah, the Hollywood Ripper, it just sounds like... It doesn't even sound like it should be a killer's name. It sounds like it should be the name of maybe an actor that just has a party streak in him. Like young Colin Farrell back in his like party hothead days.
Yeah,
he was the Hollywood Ripper. Like, that's what I expect.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Well, Jack the Ripper, like they're playing on that concept, and that's like another serial killer who's so sensationalized, you know? So yeah, the Hollywood Ripper. His name is Michael Gargiulo.
And they were able, so literally all of these things happen and they were able to determine he lives within a radius. Like how did they catch him, or did they catch him while he was running? Okay.
So I'm not going to say his name more than a couple of other times. I'm going to refer to him as the killer from here on out. Once we get to the law and the trial stuff, then I'll get you there. Okay. So the prosecution alleged that the killer was hiding in plain sight and he had the perfect cover. He had a steady job, he had a wife, he had a kid. And what no one knew for many years is that he was leading this double life, right? He was probably watching women for years and he only acted upon certain ones where he just couldn't control himself anymore. And I can't imagine being this man's wife, like finding out that you've been sleeping next to this fucking horrible monster for years and you had no idea. And that happens. Mm-hmm. You know, like we both sleep next to someone every night. And God damn it, you could really not know someone. I've been with my husband for 18 years. I think I know everything about him. But fuck, man, sometimes people surprise you.
Sometimes you don't know.
Yo, it's so crazy.
But, you know, that goes on the show, though. Whatever was going on with him, I mean, he was dealing with that his whole life, because by the time you get to the level of having a relationship, he already knew how to mask it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the way that I think that he actually was able to. Okay, I'm going off script. So
do it.
He's actually a serviceman. He's a HVAC contractor.
Okay.
So the thing that's amazing about contractors is when you own your own business, you get calls all the time. You get calls in the middle of the night, you get emergency calls, you get whatever. And that must have been a beautiful cover for his running off and watching women or whatever. He just always probably blamed it on working, which is fucking terrifying.
Yep. He's just like, so-and-so called me to fix the AC. It's not working. I got to go.
Oh, hey, honey, I got a call. I got to run. And she's like, bye. See you later. Didn't think twice. My husband goes on emergency calls all the time. Imagine. Yeah, you just wouldn't know. Like, I don't question the thought that he's going to work, you know, whatever. The LA district attorney says that he, besides being a legitimate repairman, was also a serial sexual thrill killer. These women in all of the stories that I read, I never saw anything about them being sexually assaulted, but he was somehow sexually aroused by the actual act of murdering them. Is there, what do they call it on Criminal Minds? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I don't watch Criminal Minds.
Don't watch Criminal Minds?
Not really. I mean, I've seen it once or twice. It just, it didn't do it for me the way CSI did it for me.
Justin, you must have watched old episodes. You need, for a man who watches as much TV and acting as you do, I demand you give Criminal Minds a better try.
I feel like over its entire existence, maybe I've seen the equivalent of what could be a whole season, but it's not like I sat there and watched one whole season.
10 seasons of this show.
There's
Justin.
Like 15, and that's the point that I'm making. See, that's exactly.
So you've seen none of it. Essentially,
I've seen just a few, just a minute portion.
Lame. Go watch it.
Listen, it's all right. It's like Poor Man CSI. I'm sorry.
No, it's not Poor Man CSI. It's so much. It's.
I'll check it out. I will check it out on my next layover. You're gonna check it out.
Shake my fist at you, my tiny little fist. Okay, so the DA in LA. Was able to put charges upon him for Ashley Ellerin, Maria Bruno, and the attempted murder of Michelle Murphy in California. But his original victim, Tricia Paccio, is actually the link that kind of came back around and whipped him right in the ass. So he lived in Chicago before he moved to LA.
Okay.
And these stories seem to have a lot of information specifically around Ashley Ellerin's experience with him. I don't know if that has to do with the fact that Ashton Kutcher was in the mix at all. I'm sure it does, but media kind of like really significantly focused on her story over the other women, which I tried to find more for them because I want everyone's story to be there. But I'm going to give you what was on the 48 Hours episode for Ashley Ellerin's Friends interview. the speculation is that she first crossed paths with this killer several months before he murdered her. Like I said, he lived 1 block away. And he lived with his, at the time, girlfriend. And he had seen Ellerin and her friend outside of her home in the fall of 2000. And he stopped to ask if they needed help with fixing a flat tire. And we meet the gentleman who is the friend in the interviews. And he turned down his help. He's like, I don't need your fucking help to change a tire. You know, he ended up leaving his business card for his air conditioning repair service. And like I said, his offer to help was rejected, but he stuck around and started chatting up Ashley. She was beautiful. He was a good looking guy. They flirted a lot in the parking lot. And after she met him that day, he at one point fixed her heater for her.
Oh, okay.
And then he would just show up uninvited to her house. And on multiple occasions, he was spotted parked outside, seemingly watching the place. Very similar MO to Maria Bruno. He even walked into a house party once that was occurring at her house and just like made himself at home. He was not invited there.
Oh, hell no.
He just came in and the gentleman, I think his name was Justin, was talking about how fixated he was on her. It was like an obsession.
And no one saw the warning signs there that he's just walking into the fucking house.
Her former roommate, Justin Peterson is his name, told LA Weekly, Ashley knew I had an occurrence with him and she knew how I felt about him, but she didn't seem concerned. So he must have voiced his opinions about this creepo guy who's walking in on his own. He said she was an amazing person who would make friends with everyone. If she knew the guy, her friend said if she knew someone and they knocked on the door, she would let them in.
Okay.
And detectives surmised most likely that's exactly what he did. He knocked on the door and showed up randomly like he had before. And she knew him and she welcomed him in. And that, the story goes on from there.
Damn.
So how did they catch this asshole? In 2002, almost 10 years after Tricia Paccio's murder, but before he attacked Maria Bruno and Michelle Murphy, Cook County detectives contacted the LAPD to request help in finding this killer. They obtained his DNA from under Tricia Paccio's fingernails, and they sent it away to an Illinois State Police crime lab, and the results came back with a fucking match.
Good.
At the time of her murder, he lived 1 block away from her home.
Oh my gosh.
Case closed, right? Like you have his DNA under her nails. He lives a block away, but not exactly. So the Illinois DA felt they didn't have enough corroborating evidence to press charges and make them stick. Oh my goodness. They couldn't prove that it wasn't casual contact that she got his DNA under her fingernails. Like it was known that they were all friends in the neighborhood.
Right.
This is what he does. He tries to befriend all these women, be helpful, and take off the threat of attack in his relationships by building this relationship with these women, gaining their trust. And then he's fucking the worst person ever.
The whole nice guy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The DA felt that they couldn't make the charges stick, so they just didn't do anything. It's just fucked up. There's not enough manpower to just watch this guy and make sure he doesn't do anything fucked up. By this point, in 2002, he had already murdered Ashley Ellerin.
Exactly.
So moving beyond that, in 2004, he murdered Maria Bruno. And then 4 years after that, he attempted to murder Michelle Murphy. And had we had eyes on him this whole time, maybe those women could have been spared that murder and trauma. But no, that's not how our systems are built. So, yeah, I just really feel like it's a shame that all of this even had to happen.
I mean, it could have just been preventable in general with that evidence, but yeah, we're just sweeping everything under the rug. Well, we can't do this because essentially he was a friend and he was the nice guy and he was all of these things.
Yeah, like how do you prove it? I don't know.
Extenuating circumstances. I know they need hard evidence, but it's still just infuriating to know that he was getting off.
Here's the kicker. So while struggling with Michelle Murphy, who she kicked his ass and she lived, he cut himself with his knife and left that trail of blood. And the Santa Monica Police Department investigators ran that blood sample through the national database and came back with a match to Michael Gargiulo. After locating his address, authorities realized he lived across an alley from Murphy and had a direct view into her bedroom. So no fucking wonder. That means he was also on the second floor. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he can go and figure out how to climb into his own apartment without anybody thinking it's fucking weird, right? He was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder in June of 2008. And while searching his vehicle, police discovered a bag of tools and blue shoe slippers.
Yeah, which under normal circumstances for his job, it makes sense why he would have them.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But again, they're just like the ones they found at Maria Bruno's house. So they were able to start to connect the dots because his prior addresses all kind of matched up to where these other murders happened. And Ashley Ellerin's friends actually told the police after she was murdered about a guy named Mike. They just referred to him as Mike the Furnace Guy. But they never had a last name. So essentially, like, that lead is nothing to follow. Nowhere to go with that. Until now, they have this blood matching for Michelle Murphy. And then you look at his addresses and you're like, holy shit, there was a murder across the street from his house here. There was a murder across the street from his house here. So Michael Gargiulo pled not guilty to the murders of Bruno Ellerin and the attack on Murphy. And he's also denied killing Trisha Paccio. LA County Superior Court Judge Larry Paul Fidler, who, if you remember, is the same judge who we talked about in the last case for the bling ring.
Yeah.
He's the one who let Rachel off with all those fucking charges. He handed down Gargiulo's death sentence.
Woo! All right. I don't condone the death sentence, but I'm just saying, all right, that he stepped it up because the bling ring shit was...
because he fucked up in the last one. Yeah. He also denied his request for a new trial. He said, in this case, everywhere that Mr. Gargiulo went, death and destruction followed. And that is such a true statement.
Yeah.
So despite the sentence, it's unlikely he'll be put to death in the near future. California Governor Gavin Newsom has halted executions while he is in office, and the state has not executed anyone since 2006. Gargiulo is now expected to stand trial in Illinois for the separate murder charge over the killing of Trisha Paccio in 93. So I don't believe in the death penalty. I think that you have to hit a very high standard, and I don't think that this deems it. I think it's more torture to lock him in a cage like the fucking animal that he is than to let him go into whatever ether.
Exactly. Let him rot out his years.
Yeah, man, put him in fuck. I believe in solitary. And it's in other countries, solitary confinement is actually like deemed illegal. Not in the United States. But in other countries, it's like a form of torture. And I think that is suitful for a motherfucker like this who's murdered 3 women and tried to murder a 4th. So lock his ass up with a window that's 3 inches wide and leave him in there for the rest of his sick, sad, pathetic life. Okay, off my soapbox now. And that is the story of the Hollywood Ripper.
That's pretty... it's a fucked up story. And again, like... You started in 93, you started in Chicago, you uprooted your whole life, your family's life as well, living this double life, and you continue to do all of these fucking things. And like you said, like, it's something he's clearly battling, demons, whatever you want to call it, because just he was doing what he was doing and still trying to show remorse towards it, which is fucking weird. That's why I said urge to purge, because it's like literally he's just fighting this like craving to do it.
Right. So yeah, fuck you, Michael Gargiulo, and I hope you rot. Oh, and for the record, Ashton Kutcher did have to sit on the trial and like be a witness. Like, he was fully a part of this. So I just want to put that out there that's our connection to the arts, is Mr. Kutcher's experience in all of this. You could see him. I don't know what movie he must have been filming because he had this weird mustache in his trial pictures, but yeah. So that's our connection here. I know that that's a little outside of our scope, but I thought it was an interesting story.
No, it was pretty interesting. And yeah, truth be told, I don't know if I have anything better. Mine might actually be worse, folks.
Oh, than a serial killer? Fuck.
Mine is one of my lighter stories, I think, today, more or less. It goes back. It all comes back full circle to another story I did. And I was like, we just need more stories like this. But I I digress. So, like I told you guys, it's about Tony Sirico, who was known as Paulie Walnuts on Sopranos.
I wonder if he's in my uncle's painting.
He could be. He could be. I have to look at that picture again. That shit. For those of you that listened to us previously, or if you are new, we covered a story, and Lisa was telling us about her uncle has a painting of like all of the TV and movie mob bosses,
and then himself painted together, into it,
and then himself in the painting. It's pretty fucking epic.
It is. It's so epic.
She sent it to me, and it took me a moment to realize that he was even in the painting, because I was just like, "Oh, there's so many people in this."
Dude, I stood in front of that painting and was like, "Wow, look at this painting he got." Oh, is that him? It took me a minute. My family and I stood in front of it in real life, and I still didn't realize he was in there. Very funny. Okay.
Too funny.
So tell me about, what's his name? Something Walnuts?
Paulie Walnuts. But his real name is Tony. But he's known as the actor's Tony Sirico. Okay. And we're just gonna get into some stuff about his past, and some of it's bad, but it's overall, I think, a good story. But first, I got to give you back history, because this dude has quite a bit of back history. Okay. So, like I said, people know him as Paulie. I don't feel like naming other roles that he's in, because that's the only role that people know. It's fair enough. That's what really. But he was born Gennaro Anthony Sirico.
I mean, that's an Italian name. Gennaro,
isn't it? I mean, hey. And he was born July 29th, 1942 in Brooklyn, New York, to an Italian-American family, in case y'all did not realize. He was the middle child of a family who had 3 sons. Ironically, his older brother, Carmine, made an honest living as a driver and sanitation worker, which, again, Sopranos, that was Tony Soprano's business was sanitation.
Sanitation, right?
Yeah. And fun fact, ultimately, Tony was able to get him get his brother an appearance on the show later on for like an episode. That's fun. So just some fun trivia there. But yes, so yes, his brother Carmine, honest living, all of that. And he also has a younger brother, Robert, who grew up to be a Catholic priest, which was quite a different path from his older brother. So the family grew up in Bensonhurst and East Flatbush,
how old's this
guy? Well, he was 80. He lived up to 80. We'll get into that.
Okay, but I was gonna say maybe my dad grew up around the block from him. He still could have, but he wouldn't have known him, because my dad's nowhere near 80. So
yeah, your dad's a young guy. But he grew up in Bensonhurst, and then they went around like East Flatbush and other neighborhoods of Brooklyn, where Paulie went to school until he dropped out middle school.
Damn.
Yes, I said middle school. Lisa's face is like, middle school?
You don't know shit all in middle school. That is not enough education to be a contributing person in the universe.
Well, that's like, what's his face? Remember Danny Trejo was like,
Danny Trejo. I mean, I think that same was the MGM. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. People drop out in middle school, and I don't know how they function in life. It's crazy.
Blows my fucking mind. And then from a young age, Paulie often found himself in trouble, and he kept getting involved in some form of criminal activity. That's what Bensonhurst, Brooklyn was. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much all crime back there. Yeah. So like, he was first arrested at the age of 7 for stealing nickels from a newspaper stand.
Oh my God.
He's old, Lisa. He's
nickels. Nickels.
He's fucking old. I'm sorry.
So old that he's stealing nickels and he's getting arrested. Damn.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna break me in this one. This is gonna be the one.
I might. You might be cracking up the whole time. As he grew up, he started to surround himself with individuals that were associated with the mob in New York, and he quickly fell into a life of crime. They gave him the nickname Junior, not to be confused with Junior from Sopranos. This guy was like
the OG junior.
Yeah, which is what he went by in his local neighborhood, and he built his reputation on being someone who is not to be messed with. So throughout the years, he was arrested 28 different times. But he only got convicted twice in his life.
28 times.
But he was only convicted twice in his life.
How do you get away with 28 arrests and you only have 2 convictions?
I mean,
doesn't that mean the rest of them don't matter?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. The power of the mob back then.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah,
okay.
this guy was a legitimate mobster. We're just.
Yo, you're not kidding. Not kidding. I don't even know how he got arrested 28 times. Like, usually they let you go before they arrest you, so it's not like on a book somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
but you got arrested 28 times, though. And then it's like, all right, was it all slap on the wrist, or did we just pay you under the books and you let me go? Like, how does this work out here?
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
So in his early 20s, he got married to his pregnant wife at the time and started to work on construction to make ends meet. Like, so it seems he's going legit. Although he already had a family at the time, he still continued to be involved in criminal activities, and he started to make a name for himself as a stick-up artist. So my boy graduated from stealing nickels to
holding people up and taking their wallets.
People up. Yeah, he graduated.
I love that you said
up.
A stick-up artist as if it was.
There is an artwork to don't do crime, folks. I am not saying to do this.
This is the one who break me up.
But I am saying there is an art to being a stick-up person. You can't just run up in there. And
you got to finesse.
You got to finesse.
Timing, finesse.
And even in this day and age, you have to be smart too. Like, I go back to a slightly off rant, but it's worth it. I go back to this movie called Hell or High Water. It came out a few years ago. It's Chris Pine and Ben Foster. They're brothers in Texas. They're losing their family ranch. No one's giving them money. So they decide they're going to rob a bank, right? Well, on paper, the way they planned everything was perfect. But again, they were not smart. They forget that Texas, especially part of fucking Texas, they decided to rob, is an open carry state. So when they went in there thinking they could just show guns and people would hand money, there was 8
Everybody
other motherfucking customers there with a gun. And it, I'm not spoiling the movie for you. Keep watching because it gets crazy. But again, there's an art to it. So just
Ben Foster, huh? And Chris Pine. That's
Chris Pine. That's when I started to be like, oh, Chris Pine's a legitimate actor. I like, but anywho.
Oh, how did you not think Chris Pine? Did you watch Dear Darling, whatever the fuck it was called?
Don't worry, darling. But that's what I'm saying. That came out now. And this was years ago. This was like the turn. Yeah.
Yeah, but, he's not just a Star Trek idiot.
He's just not. He's not just a pretty boy. But so there's an art to being a stick-up person, and But this dude. Tony or Junior, whatever you want to call him right now, he would rob local nightclubs after hours with his crew, often wearing disguises that involved him wearing fake mustaches and wigs.
Yo, you always find this fake mustache stories.
Listen.
And wigs. I just picture him looking like Laurel and Hardy. I don't know why.
That's how I envisioned it. I wasn't able to look at a picture of him robbing back in the 50s or whatever fucking decade it was, but very, very specific. And this is, again, he's doing this in Brooklyn. Like, non-New Yorkers don't understand, like, stick-ups happening is one thing in Brooklyn, but, like, people that come fully disguised as something else in there at that time period, that was not the norm, folks.
No, you just did the crime. You didn't put on a fucking costume.
Yeah. He
could have just got a ski mask, for fuck's sake. Why a wig and a mustache?
You put on a ski mask. This guy's over here. He's got a fucking mustache.
He wants to be an actor. That's what it is.
That's, there we go.
From his core. He's always wanted to portray a different character. Oh my God, Justin.
So they would do the robbings, and then they would, split after they stole what they needed. And then eventually the law caught up with him. And he was found. The law caught up with him, and he was found guilty of robbing a club in Brooklyn back in 1967, which resulted in him serving 13-month bid in prison. Again, like, this guy just went from like a local store robbing, doing stick-ups to local stores, to now he moved up to clubs. Like, this was,
listen,
again,
there's
I don't
more
know
money
how
to be had, Justin. You got to up your game, man. If you don't up your game. The fucking thing.
It's a fucking club, though. I was bold move.
Yeah.
Very bold. So he continued, like I said, he 13-month bid in prison. He continued to pursue his criminal lifestyle after he was released from prison, as he didn't feel the need to change his ways yet. So due to his reputation as a stick-up artist, as we call it, he was always armed, and he often carried one or more firearms on him at all times.
And in New York, that's like impossible to do legally, at least.
Yeah, seriously. And his paranoia increased during an incident where he started an affair with another woman who he was spending time with away from his wife and children. One night, he was making out with her outside on the stairs of a building when the woman's lover spotted them, shot him twice. Once in the back, which means he was trying to run, and once in the leg with a group of men that were with him. Yeah. So the man that shot him was allegedly associated with the Lucchese crime family, and shortly after the shooting occurred, a sit-down. Yes.
Yeah, the heads of the crime families had to have a come to Jesus about this idiot who's cheating on his wife.
He's a made man. You shot a made man. Well, your made man fucked my made man's wife.
Kudos to say the what was it? Which crime family was it? The Lucinos?
It was a Lucchese family that shot him, essentially. But yeah, it was a sit down held between the Lucchese's and the Colombo families, because he's part of the Colombo family. You
can just see this falling into an episode of Sopranos, right? They all like fat fuckers walk in, sit down in their suits around a table in someone's restaurant in the back room. Everybody gets a glass of whiskey. You know, you can set the lights are dim, you know?
You can set the tone. The story goes that one of the future family captains of the Colombo family put Sirico on record as one of the associates of the family for protection from any backlash in the future. Although the story was, to this day, even was still an unconfirmed rumor, Sirico continued to maintain his ties to organized crime and continued his life of crime shortly after the incident. It was also assumed that the woman that he was kissing that night of the shooting was the woman that he ended up leaving his pregnant wife for. Yeah. So,
my head's going to fall off. His wife's pregnant again. And he's fucking around. And he leaves his pregnant wife.
Yep.
For his mistress.
Who's
married to a different mob family member.
Correct.
He is a messy motherfucker. Messy. God.
So just 4 years after that initial conviction I told you about, he was arrested again for extortion, coercion, and felony weapon possession charges, and served another 20 months in prison in Sing Sing.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, Sing Sing's not where you want to go.
Yeah. Y'all can look up Sing Sing. That's another infamous prison that you don't want to go to.
But you know what? At the end of the day, he's probably fine, because he's probably got other fucking mob members in there that they all just kind of buddy up.
Him in there.
Yeah, it's so crazy how all of that works, because it's a mirror image of like standard society, right? It's like we all just sort of agreed upon these things. Like, you drive on the right side of the road in America, right? We just all said, sure.
We just all agreed.
Yeah. Stop signs, 4-way stop signs means everybody stops, and these are the rules, right? So there's like all these random things in the world that you just agreed upon unknowingly. And this mob mentality, the mafia mentality, is this, it's like its own little terrarium of life, and they just make up their own rules and everyone follows them. It's fascinating.
It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. So they got him in Sing Sing for that, and you know, he served 20 months, but they were saying it could have lasted up to 4 years if he wasn't on his best behavior. So again, this guy is doing all this shit, but clearly he's got that charm that's also in these fucking movies that I'm always like, because, you know, in these mobster films, I'm always like, did all of these mobsters really have this charm that's portrayed, or we just, but apparently a good portion did.
I guess. Well, and like, their money exchanges hands, and everyone again agrees that he was on his best behavior the whole time. Or I turned my eye this way and didn't see him fucking shank that idiot over there. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, of course, had he done 4 years or more time than 20 months, and maybe he would have changed his mind in the way that he was doing things on the outside,
Possibly. And then according to the court transcripts at the time of his sentencing, he was the owner of a nightclub in Manhattan who also had pending drug charges against him. So the New York City judge that oversaw his case referred to him as a danger to society for his previous involvement in crime.
No shit.
He had a psychiatric evaluation at Bellevue Hospital where they found that he had suffered from a personality disorder that contributed to his behavior over the years.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I would, when I first was looking into all this, I'm like, I would not have pegged it as a personality disorder. I would have just thought like maybe there's some other things going on there.
Yeah, but what do you think a personality disorder is? Bipolar.
True. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Bipolar could be labeled into that. I just literally took it as a literal. I took it as a literal thing at first, and I was like, and I was like, no way. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
No,
but you're right. Bipolar. Yeah,
he's just a narcissist. Bipolar. He's got all the makings for a mobster.
So it was during his second stint in prison that he witnessed a performance by a troupe of ex-convicts called the Theater of the Forgotten. See, that's a cool name.
Oh, that is a cool name. Was this also in Sing Sing?
It was in Sing Sing. Yeah. It was in Sing Sing.
The Theater for the Forgotten?
Of the Forgotten.
Oh, okay. So they're former convicts who have served time and now they're in a theater troupe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They went to his prison to perform for the inmates. After watching their performance, he felt like he could do well in the performing arts and decided to pursue it after he was released from jail. So when he was released in 1971, he reached out to his friend Richard Castellano, who is best known for playing the role of Pete Clemenza in The Godfather. And yeah.
Like, I'm Italian, you're Italian, let's be friends.
And that was the catch. And that was like, one of his good friends. I didn't look into Richard Castellano, but I assumed he was from New York as well and from Brooklyn from that time. They're all the same, they're both the same age. Right. So, but yeah, he reached out to him. And like I said, that dude played Pete Clemenza in The Godfather. And he asked him if he could help him get a job in the film industry. With Pete Clemenza, I was about to call this motherfucker by his character name. With Richard Castellano. Yeah. With his help, I was too busy trying not to laugh. With his help, our boy was able to land his first movie role in 1974 as an extra in the mob movie Crazy Joe. And then he was in another uncredited role for The Godfather 2. So over the next few decades, Sirico would appear in multiple different classic mob movies, such as Goodfellas, Casino, Mob Queen, all of them. Defiance, all of them. Basically all of them. A, B, C, and D. He was in all of them. He also developed a close friendship with Woody Allen.
It's a good person to have a friend.
Yeah, if you're a guy, I'm sure we're going to cover Woody Allen.
Yeah, I mean, he might be garbage, but
yeah,
if you want to be in the movies, you want to be friends with Woody Allen.
Yeah, you want to be friends with him for sure. He developed a close friendship with him as his acting career progressed and ended up appearing in 7 of his movies throughout his career. In the later part of his career, he was even able to land some voice acting gigs on several cartoon series such as Family Guy and American Dad and The Fairly Odd Parents.
The Fairly Odd Parents.
I loved that show.
I did too. What a random place for this guy to show up. The Fairly Odd Parents.
I'm gonna have to look up to see what episode he was in at one point, because if he's like a mob fairy or something, that's gonna be really. Don't spit your drink out. Don't spit your drink out. What? Yeah.
We need to know right now. I need to know. Fairly Odd Parents.
She's looking it up right now, and I'm gonna take a look. Tony Sirico.
Yeah, okay. Tony.
Let's see who finds it first. Let's do it.
For the record, you actually know how to spell his name, I guessed. I know who this is.
He was in multiple episodes? You said you know who he is.
No.
The picture.
Now that I have a picture. Oh, Justin. He's a fucking mobster fairy. I'm dead.
Oh, I knew it.
I'm dead.
He's called Big Daddy. I just looked it up. Yeah, okay. I saw your picture.
Oh, come on. I need it for the Patreon.
Wait. Just it was there for a second. Oh, wait. Yep. Put your other hand. Yes, it's right there. Keep your head like that. Yep. That's there. It's there.
I'm ruined. He's even got a little crown. Oh, it's fucking ridiculous. Big Daddy.
Wow. She is fucking cracking up, folks.
Oh my God, I'm crying. What the fuck could this episode have even been about? Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Go. Talk.
No, you're good. I was just going to say he tended to play mob roles, but he was able to draw his experiences from his personal life to bring more authenticity to the roles he was able to get. And to this day, the most famous role that he is known for was the character he played on the Emmy Award-winning TV drama known as The Sopranos. Paulie Walnuts Galattieri. I always mess up that name. It doesn't matter. We refer to him as Paulie Walnuts. Like everyone in the show calls him Paulie Walnuts. I'm not. But yeah, what happened was he auditioned for The Sopranos. He initially auditioned for the role of Uncle Junior.
Okay.
Who was the uncle of, Tony Soprano.
Okay.
But what happened is literally at the time, the directors and like Scorsese, I was about to say Scorsese, but no, the directors called him up and was like, hey, we have someone else already for Uncle Junior, and we don't have any other roles at the moment. But they were like, can we call you back within the next couple of hours? Because we're trying to figure something out. And he's
they just wanted him in there.
But he thought that was just their way of saying like, see you later. So he didn't think anything of it. And then what happened is they did call him back a couple hours later and they're like, okay, so we're working on adding this character in now that goes by Paulie Walnuts, whatever. Would you be interested in it? And they were like, we're kind of making this for you. It's going to be tailored towards you. And he's like, well, I could be able to have a little bit of input. And they're like, sure. So then he accepts the role.
Wow. So then they literally made a role for him.
Yeah.
That's
initially,
awesome.
Paulie Walnuts was not even in the fucking show.
And he was a pretty standard character.
He was pretty standard. I mean, he became a fan favorite for the most part. And he agreed to take that role under the condition that, he had some control on it. But also, the character was never to become a rat. Because he said that would violate his own personal code because he in real life was never a rat. So let that sink in, folks.
Talk about dramatic. You're acting, sir.
Yeah. Well, I kind of see where he's coming from too, because he's like, if I portray a rat on TV,
then everyone's gonna think I was a rat in real life, or am a rat in real life.
Well, his mobster people might. I don't know. So around the time that the show first aired in 1999, Sirico and his co-stars on the series, Vincent Pastore, met with James and Jerry Clemenza, who were soldiers of the Colombo crime family, at a Christmas party in Little Italy, where the two were under FBI surveillance. So it's like, I just got cast in this show. I'm playing a mobster and I'm celebrating at a well-known crime family's fucking house for a Christmas party.
It's funny that you said the FBI was telling them, because have you ever seen that documentary on Netflix about the five families? Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a crazy story. So I'm sure it was around that time frame.
Oh, definitely. 1999. And then Sopranos went on to become like one of the most influential TV shows of all time.
No doubt.
And it won multiple different awards, including 21 Emmys and 5 Golden Globe Awards. It's been consistently ranked as one of the best TV shows of all time and helped catapult the career of multiple different cast members who were previously unknown
James
before the show. Yeah. Yeah, Edie Falco, like all these people, it just launched them to the stratosphere. And Sirico's character was also considered by many to be a fan favorite. And writers even wrote several aspects of his personal life into the character's storyline. So like much like Paulie, he lived with his mother for most of his life, had many of the same mannerisms, which made it a lot easier for Sirico to play the character.
No shit, he's just playing himself.
He's just playing himself. And I told you how he brought his fucking older brother on for an episode.
Yeah.
But in the end, Sirico was able to turn his life around in a big way by leaving his crime in the past and turning his past experiences into memorable characters that he was able to portray in TV and movies. Through his upbringing, he was exposed to figures that were heavily involved in the mob and wanted to incorporate aspects of their lifestyle into his own life. He was able to find a platform to express himself in a more constructive manner.
Amen.
While still being able to find inspiration in his roots from his past life, of crime when he was coming up in New York. Unfortunately, he passed away actually this year, a few months ago, back in July. He was 80. Although he passed away earlier this year, he'll forever be remembered as one of the greatest mob actors of all time to some people. Like some of y'all gonna be out here like, just you're declaring him the greatest mob actor of all time. I'm not necessarily doing that. I'm only stating an observation, which he is already hailed by a lot of other people.
We lost a lot of mob actors in recent years, right? James Caan.
Yeah.
He was last year, we lost him.
He was. I think he was last year, or he might have been the beginning of this year. But we lost Ray Liotta this year, and
what is happening?
So, well, I mean, some of them are just old.
Yeah,
but Ray Liotta wasn't that old. No.
Wow,
that's crazy. And that's my story. Like I said, this one today was a lighter one because again, we brought that up before, and I was like, I gotta find more stories where people kind of turn it. I am interested more in some stories where some of the people turn their lives around.
Dude, that's great. My stories are about sexual assault and murder. Thank God you're here.
It's the balance.
Oh Jesus! I guess one of us has to be the darker and the lighter.
Sometimes we're both. Sometimes we're both dark. Sometimes we're in sync. So but that's my story for today.
Yeah, you have one of my favorite and least favorite shirts on right now. Justin's got, so when we were in college, Dave Chappelle and the Chappelle Show were like real big and famous and everybody loved it with the exception of me. And I found it all very annoying. And Justin's got the Chappelle Show shirt on right now.
This is my shirt. Again, for those on the Patreon that's watching this video, sorry, I'm all ghosty. It is what it is. But here's the shirt. Yeah. And if any of you subscribe and you end up looking at this video and you're like, where'd I get this shirt from? I got it from like it was called T-Zone or something random. It was one of those quick little pop-up e-stores. You know how like every other week there's a new one. I got it years ago. It doesn't exist anymore. I've seen many other type of Chappelle shirts, but none like this. This
has four characters drawn in like cartoon form, sort of.
It's his Rick James, it's his Tyrone Bigham, it's his Prince, and it's him doing Little John. Yeah, there you go.
Oh shit. Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Oh man, I don't know if you watch SNL, but he hosted last week and he did this whole House of Dragons sketch. I don't watch House of Dragons.
I don't either.
I appreciate it.
I tried to watch the first episode and then I was traumatized. So I only made it through half of the first episode. Literally traumatized. Did you watch it? The first episode?
No, I don't do House of Dragons, but I don't want our podcast to be like rated low because of my feelings on House of Dragons. So I will abstain, but I don't watch it. But still, if you like Dave Chappelle, that SNL sketch, even if you watch the House of Dragons or not, it's hysterical. Because
everything he does is hilarious.
Yeah.
When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all of the social platforms at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye.